Look at the crack running across your garage floor right now. Maybe it started as a hairline last spring and now you can fit a coin into it. Somewhere online, someone has probably told you it's a secret, suppressed cure. Pour in a dollar bottle of clear liquid and the crack disappears forever. That story isn't true, but there is a real chemical behind it, and it's worth understanding clearly without the mythology. The chemical is sodium silicate, often sold as water glass. It's a genuinely old material. Builders, farmers, and industrial flooring contractors have used it for well over a century to harden and densify concrete surfaces. None of that is a secret. It's sold openly at hardware stores, industrial supply companies, and by major flooring product manufacturers, who publish spec sheets on exactly what it does and doesn't do. Here's the actual chemistry. Cured concrete contains calcium hydroxide, a byproduct of the cement curing reaction. When a sodium silicate solution is applied to the surface, it reacts with that calcium hydroxide to form calcium silicate hydrate, the same compound, CESH, that gives concrete most of its strength in the first place. This reaction happens mostly in the top few millimeters of the slab, in the surface pores. As the reaction proceeds, it partially fills those pores with new solid material. That makes the surface harder, more abrasion resistant, and less permeable to water and dust. This is why sodium silicate, and closely related lithium silicate and potassium silicate formulas, are widely used today as concrete densifiers and hardeners. Warehouses, factory floors, and polished concrete installations are routinely treated with these products, specifically because they reduce dusting, increase surface hardness, and cut down on moisture absorption. If you've ever seen a polished concrete floor in a big box store or a modern warehouse, there's a good chance a silicate densifier was part of the process. This is documented mainstream practice in the concrete industry, not folk knowledge kept from you. Now, here's the part that matters most, and the part the suppressed secret version of this story gets wrong. Densifying a surface is not the same thing as sealing a structural crack. A hairline crack in a garage floor or basement wall is a break all the way through the depth of the slab, not just a surface blemish. Sodium silicate reacts with calcium hydroxide near the surface it touches. Poured into a crack, it can react with the exposed faces of that crack and slightly harden them, and it can reduce how much surface water tracks across the area. But it does not weld the two sides of a structural crack back together, and it does not reliably stop water infiltration through a crack that goes through the slab, the way an engineered treatment designed for that purpose can. For actual crack repair, two approaches are standard in the concrete repair industry, and both are well documented by engineering organizations, not hidden from homeowners. Epoxy injection, used for structural cracks where you want to restore the concrete's strength across the crack. A two-part epoxy is injected under pressure so it fills the crack through its full depth and bonds the two faces back into essentially one piece. Polyurethane injection, used mainly for cracks that are actively leaking water, especially in basement walls. Polyurethane expands as it cures and is flexible, so it can accommodate some ongoing minor movement in the crack while stopping water. Both of these are more expensive than a bottle of water glass, and yes, contractors make money doing them. That's not evidence of a conspiracy. It's evidence that injecting material under pressure into a crack correctly takes tools, training, and time that a DIY pour and wait method doesn't require. A concrete contractor charging for structural crack injection is charging for a different, more involved service than surface densifying, not selling you a placebo. So where does sodium silicate actually make sense for a homeowner? Surface hardening and dust control. If you have an older concrete garage or basement floor that's dusting, chalking, or getting soft and worn on the surface, a sodium silicate or lithium silicate densifier is a legitimate, inexpensive way to harden that surface and cut down on dust. This is the same category of product used commercially, just sold in homeowner-sized containers, reducing surface permeability on uncracked concrete. Applied to a sound slab without through cracks, these products can reduce how much water and oil soak into the surface, making the floor easier to clean and somewhat more resistant to staining. As a minor supplement on hairline surface cracks, meaning shallow, cosmetic cracking that hasn't gone through the full depth of the slab and isn't associated with active water leakage or ongoing structural movement. In that narrow case, a silicate treatment may modestly harden the crack faces and reduce surface moisture tracking, though it is not a substitute for proper crack repair if the crack is structural or actively leaking. Where it does not belong, a wide, actively moving structural crack, a crack that's letting water into a basement, any crack in a foundation wall bearing load, or any situation where a structural engineer would normally be consulted. If a crack is wider than about 1/4 inch, if it's stepping, offset on either side, if it's growing, or if water is coming through it, that calls for a real evaluation, not a bottle poured in on a cool evening. If you want to try a densifier on a genuinely cosmetic, surface-level slab, here's a realistic, honest process, based on how these products are actually meant to be used, per manufacturer application guidance for silicate densifiers generally. Clean the surface thoroughly. Oil, dust, sealers, or paint on the surface will block the reaction. A stiff brush and a vacuum or a light pressure wash followed by full drying works well. Confirm the concrete is dry and check the temperature. Most silicate densifiers are applied within a moderate temperature range, commonly cited around 50 to 90 degrees, and not in direct blazing sun, which can flash the product before it can soak in. Always check the specific product's data sheet, since ranges vary by manufacturer. Apply and even coat by low-pressure sprayer, keeping the surface wet for the dwell time listed on the product label, which is usually a period of minutes, not seconds. Squeegee off any standing puddles so the product doesn't dry into a hazy white residue on the surface. Allow the recommended cure time, typically a day or more, before heavy foot or vehicle traffic. Many manufacturers recommend a second coat for better hardening on porous or older concrete, applied once the first coat has been absorbed. Cost for a homeowner-sized product treating a typical garage floor is usually in the range of tens of dollars, not the dollar or two figure sometimes claimed online. Real densifier products aren't sold in ounce-sized bottles for pennies, precisely because you need enough volume to properly saturate a floor. A note on safety, since it's a fair question. Concentrated sodium silicate solutions are alkaline and can irritate skin, eyes, and the respiratory tract with prolonged or repeated exposure, similar to other mildly caustic cleaning and construction chemicals. Manufacturer safety data sheets for these products generally recommend gloves and eye protection during application and adequate ventilation, just as they would for many common masonry and concrete products. That doesn't make it a dangerous chemical to keep away from. It just means natural and harmless aren't the same thing, and it deserves the same basic precautions as other concrete working chemicals. None of this is a hidden or suppressed technique. It's a real material with a real, useful but limited role, hardening and densifying concrete surfaces and modestly reducing porosity. It complements, it doesn't replace, proper structural crack repair using epoxy or polyurethane injection when a crack is more than cosmetic. If you're standing in your garage looking at a crack tonight, the honest answer is this. If it's a shallow, stable cosmetic hairline in an otherwise sound floor, a silicate densifier is a cheap, reasonable thing to try, alongside understanding that it's a surface treatment, not a structural repair. If the crack is wide, growing, offset, or leaking water, the responsible next step is a proper evaluation, and possibly epoxy or polyurethane injection done by someone who knows how to do it, not because an industry is conspiring to keep you paying, but because that's genuinely the tool suited to the job.